Welcome to the second episode of our Norwegian Fjords cruise on Sky Princess. In the last episode, we enjoyed the sail-away party, had a sea day, ate cake and visited our first port, Bergen. Our next port was Skjolden, which meant sailing through Sonja Fjord, the longest and deepest fjord in Norway. Sonja Fjord is 127 miles long from the sea to Skjolden, and as we were due to dock in Skjolden at 7:30 a.m, I decided to get up at 5 to experience part of the journey. It was very quiet on board at this time with a few passengers up to take in the views. It was also very cold, so I stopped at the International Cafe to get a hot coffee before I went out onto the open decks. The scenery is pretty spectacular, so if you can, I definitely recommend making the effort to get up early. As the sun rose, hitting the tops of the snow-covered mountains, it turned them golden. The ship docked not far from the village and it was a nice stroll in. We spotted a signpost for Asafossen waterfall, so with no other plans we decided to take a look. It was around 2 miles on the flat, and on the way we passed a lake and several other waterfalls. Opposite the Asafossen waterfall is Wittgenstein's Hand, a wooden monument in honour of Ludwig Wittgenstein, easy for you to say, a famous philosopher who spent time in Skjolden for the peace and tranquility. After a wrong turn, we actually decided to visit his cottage, perched on the side of a mountain overlooking a lake. It's a steep climb, so not suitable for everyone, but the view from the cottage was very special. After catching our breath, we made our way back the steep path and wandered back into the village and on to Sky Princess. Once back on board, we enjoyed the sail back through Sonja Fjord in the sunshine. It offered completely different views on our way back out of Sonja Fjord, and with the majority of passengers out to enjoy the views, we found a spot towards the aft in order to take in the scenic cruising. For a little while, a boat followed us along. We saw roads that passed through the tunnels as it snaked around the coast, waterfalls and houses on the side of the fjord. There are ferries that operate across the fjord, and many of the houses we saw didn't even have road access. As the sun started to set, we found a seat in Take 5. This is footage I'd taken early in the day, but it can get quite busy in this venue, and we were able to continue to watch the scenery go by through the windows whilst listening to some jazz music. That evening, we ate in one of the main dining rooms. Here are a selection of desserts we enjoyed: pistachio creme brulee, carrot cake, and a chocolate journeys dessert. The next day we called at Olden, a relatively small town, and we had booked an excursion through Princess to visit the Briksdal Glacier. The excursion was $99 per person, but we used our $50 onboard credit to halve the price. Our coach journey was only about 20 to 25 minutes, and we stopped at a lake on the way for photos. We were dropped at the start of the footpath to the glacier, and here you can pick up troll cars for around £22 return per person, but we decided to go on foot so we could stop and look at the waterfalls on the way. The footpath is gravelled for the majority of the way, and the steepest section was at the beginning. We were quite glad to stop at the waterfalls and take a look at them. Everything is really well marked out so you can't get lost. The walk to the glacier is around 1.8 miles each way. There is one section where the terrain was uneven, but there were handrails available. It's definitely worth stopping to take everything in, and as we had about an hour and a half to 2 hours, there was no need to rush. As we got closer, we could spot the arm of the Bricsdal Glacier. This glacier is the largest in mainland Europe. The arm has retreated over the years and used to cover this whole area where the lake is now. This is as close as you can get to it now. During our coach journey, we'd learnt that the glacial water was very pure, so we decided to give it a taste. And what was my verdict?
Come on then, try it.
Can you?
Oh, it's nice and cold. Well, yes, it was nice and cold. It had come from the glacier, but it was very pure and refreshing after our walk. As we headed back, we saw boulders that had been carried along by the glacier, and it was fascinating to imagine how big it had once been. After coffee and quite a lot of cake, and a look round the gift shop, we travelled back to the ship, passing farms and lakes. We passed Olden New Church, built in 1934, and Olden Old Church, built in 13th century. We were back at the cruise ship by early afternoon, and it's not until your coach takes 40 seconds to drive past it that you appreciate its size. It was lovely to see Sky Princess with the snowy mountains in the background. We really enjoyed our time in Olden and were pleased we'd opted for the excursion to the glacier. One thing I will say is that be prepared for a very memorable send-off from Olden. I will leave a link to a short video at the end of this one for you to watch. In the third and final episode of our Norwegian Fjords cruise, we visit Stavanger, have one final sea day, and give you our honest review of the cruise, including onboard experience, food and entertainment. To ensure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button now. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer, feel free to pop them in the comments. Thank you for watching.